when I was 14 years old, or 19 years old rather, I was excited to vote for the first time. And when I arrived at the polls, I clearly remember the man who was at the check-in table, uh, just said I couldn't find my information and I was turned away. Quite frankly, I found it really odd because I clearly remember getting my license 10 months prior to the election and registering to vote. So I was absolutely disillusioned and walked away and didn't return to vote for many, 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 many years. So as a young 19-year-old, I really didn't question it much. I just thought I probably made a mistake when registering. And if that happened today, I'm pretty sure I would handle it very differently. But I was young and just really didn't know any better. So as it turns out, later on, I found out that I was in fact registered to vote, but was inexplicably turned away. And I was absolutely enraged and just became totally disenfranchised. I didn't vote a majority of my 20s because of it. So instances similar to mine, they happen every single election cycle and they just go unquestioned. And to me, it's proof that we have so much more work to do when it comes to the voting rights for Latin Americans and all people of color. And unfortunately, that's just one example, but there's many other examples that affect the Latin American community. One that jumps out at me is that not until too long ago, information about registering to vote on the North Carolina Board of Elections website was not available in Spanish. Now, that's no longer the case, but it was a huge reason why so many Latinos and Latinas did not register to vote in North Carolina. You know, the registration process can already be pretty complex for those that are new to our country, and the language barrier, it just didn't make it any easier. Another terrible example of voter suppression is that Black and Latino voters who are successful at submitting an absentee ballot are 3 times more likely to be turned away than white voters in North Carolina. Another one that I think doesn't get enough spotlight is, most people don't know, folks that are born in the island of Puerto Rico, they're citizens of the United States of America. However, they're not allowed to vote in the presidential elections. So think about that. That's over 3 million Latinx American citizens. I'm going to repeat that. 3 million Latinx American citizens whose voices are being absolutely muted, and they have no say in who they get to call Mr. President. So lastly, one of the things I've noticed is many across party lines have invested very little to mobilize non-white young voters. And this coupled with other egregious forms of voter suppression to diminish the electoral power of Latinos, they're dangerous and truly put our democracy in question. But it goes without saying that there's many in our country, the state of North Carolina and Mecklenburg County, that simply do not want the Latin American community to participate in the electoral process. So it's important that we put an end to this. And I'm grateful for those that fight for the voting rights of my fellow Latin American brothers and sisters.